This is a compilation video of every full-length Jay Dilla video on my channel so far. Videos like breaking down Jay Dilla's micro-chopping technique, Dilla time when wrong is right, and how to make beats according to Jay Dilla. And you already see the runtime, so you might as well sit back, relax, and just watch this on your TV. This is a Jay Dilla video mixtape. Pre-ordered the book called Dilla Time, written by Dan Charnas, so I was eagerly expecting its arrival. I never like to assume that everyone who watches my videos knows every producer I talk about, so if you don't know who Jay Dilla is, he's a hip-hop producer who other hip-hop producers view like basketball players view Michael Jordan. I just want to talk about chapter 1 for a few minutes, and if you want to read the book for yourself, I have it linked in the description box and the pinned comment below. Chapter 1 is Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong.
No, really, that's the chapter title. Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong.
So keep watching, and that'll make a little more sense later. Chapter 1 starts out with Charnas telling the story of Questlove hearing Dilla's offbeat drum programming for the first time. The song was by The Pharcyde, and it's called Bullshit. This story is quite familiar to me because Questlove tells it in his 2014 interview with Red Bull Music Academy. I can remember that in that interview, he was quoted as saying that Dilla's drumming sounded like a drunk 3-year-old. Listen to what else he has to say about Dilla's drumming.
You know, I have so much, I wish I could find this stuff. It's somewhere in storage. Like when we were working on the Things Fall Apart record and the Common record, like I was just recording for hours just to see what his techniques were. And, you know, the fact that he believes in dynamics. You know, the average producer cat, he'll take a record. You know, if it's a drum break, he'll take the first snare he hears, the first kick he hears, the first hi-hat he hears. And that's it. Chop it up and does a beat. If it's a drum break for like 32 bars, Jay will actually take like 9 snares, 9 kicks, 9 hi-hats, because each of them have a different dynamic. But he's so quick with it. Like I just never seen someone like so in tune to how, you know, to what he's doing.
Charnas also talked about when Bob Power first heard one of Jay Dilla's beats. By the way, every time I read or see Bob Power's name, I think about that line, "Hey yo, my mic is sounding bugged. Bob Power, you there?" "Yeah." "Adjust my bass and treble, make my shit sound clear, clear, clear." What song did that come from, y'all? And to be clear, I'm just quizzing y'all, cause I've been playing it since I was 12 years old. So let me know in the comments below. Bob Power is a mixing engineer for A Tribe Called Quest. Because you know, or maybe you don't know, Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest was put on to Dilla by Amp Fiddler. As a matter of fact, I'll let him tell the story.
Well, when I first heard Jay Dilla, I was on tour. I was on Lollapalooza tour in '94. So when we started on the tour, this brother with a crazy big afro came by. It was Amp Fiddler. He was playing keyboards for Funkadelic, and he was just like, "Yo, it's a pleasure meeting you, but I got this kid. I really want you there. You're gonna love him. He loves you. He looks up to you so much. I want you to meet him when we get to Detroit." And it's like, all right. We had like 12 cities to get to Detroit, and each day he would still come and say the same thing to me. Like, "Yo, man, Detroit's coming up, man." Like, so we finally get there, and we perform or whatever, and then he was like, "Yo, you ready? We'll meet him." I was like, yeah. So I'm on the tour bus, we just got off, whatever, and then he comes on. I remember Dilla had on some glasses, and he came on smiling. The first thing I saw was a smile. It was like, oh man. I was like, "Oh, what's up, man?" And he gave me his tape personally. And we were doing secondary shows in certain markets with Dilla. We're driving off to the next city. And at night, I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? And it was a Slum Village demo. And I was like, damn, this shit is crushing. And then I looked around to see if anybody was around. I was like, this is ill. So then we got to the next city. We had a show with De La. So me and Plug 2, we was blowing or something. I was like, yo, come here, man. I took him to the bus and shit. And I was like, yo, listen to this shit. And he played it. You know, Dave had this tooth that was missing, and he used to always laugh. He used to cover his shit like this. So we listening to it. He's like, oh shit! And he was the first person that I played Dilla shit for. I was like, yo, this dude is ill, right? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, yo, he sounds like your shit, but just better.
And so Q-Tip, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, and Jay Dilla, then known as JD, formed a production collective called the Ummah. And as Bob Power was listening to wordplay from Beats, Rhymes, and Life, he realized that something didn't sound right. Something sounded wrong.
Wrong. Wrong.
Bob Power wanted to speak up about it, but he didn't, because Q-Tip brought Dilla in and he seemed really excited and sure about having him there. But in Bob Power's mind, and this sentence I'm about to say comes directly from the book, man, this shit is fucked up. Later, it occurred to Bob Power that maybe that was the whole point. So I guess Jay Dilla was an acquired taste for some people, because Questlove also had a similar change of heart. But it wasn't until Questlove went to JD's home studio in Detroit that he found out that Dilla's programming was in fact the opposite of sloppy. Now keep in mind, Questlove has been playing the drums since he was a little kid. If you're old enough to remember, you know that like before Dilla, there was kind of like a quote unquote right way to play the drums. Just think about how drummers played like when you used to go to church and see people playing drums in church. You know, I mean, they had their dynamics, they had their drum rolls and everything like that, but it was just, they knew how to stay in the pocket. But anyway, Questlove watched what Dilla would do. Dilla would get up at like 7 a.m. and clean up around his studio for a couple of hours listening to music. You know, records he just purchased, listening to parts to sample, because he was patient enough to listen to the whole song, because he knew that's how you find the gems on a record. Then from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, he would make beats, and quickly, one beat after another. Now, if you've been paying attention, how was Dilla able to make his beats so fast? Well, duh. Because he was listening to the songs and formulating in his head what he was gonna do before he sat down at his MPC 3000. Now, that still doesn't mean that's easy enough that it will work for you too, but that was his method. So after 3 hours of making beats, he would take a 3-hour lunch break. Sometimes during that time, he'd pick up artists and musicians from the airport and bring them back to his studio. Then he'd get back to work from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. After that, it was Dilla's time, no pun intended, to hang out, get something to eat, go to the strip club. Oh yeah, if I knew Dilla, we would have gotten along really well. I love me some big booties. And then after the strip club, sometimes he would come home and make even more beats. That's why I like to call Jay Dilla the Tupac of making beats.
All day, I tell people all day, I'm in the studio from my time I get up, time I go to sleep. I mean, I leave out, go get something to eat, that's it. It's like, I can't do anything else, you know what I'm saying? But, except for ladies, you know what I'm saying? But I'll leave that alone, But no, you know, like I get the inspiration from talking to people like Pete Rock and Diamond D. Like, every time I call Pete, he's in the basement. Yeah, it's like, every time I call him, he's working. Yeah. Every time I call Diamond D, he's in the lab. So it's like, it's nothing for me to do but do the same thing.
And people who knew Dilla said that he was a clean freak, like mad OCD with it. He kept his clothes organized in his bedroom. In the fridge, the soda cans were in straight rows with all the labels facing the same way. He had a bunch of notebooks that he would write lyrics in, his to-do list, sample ideas, and song arrangements. So basically, there was a method to his madness. He was far from sloppy. Dan Charnas writes that Jay Dilla's rhythms were not accidents, they were intentions.
Like, I get that from listening to old drummers, Bernard Purdy.
You must then learn how to groove.
You know, Idris Muhammad. I mean, like, drummers like that, like, had funk, soul. It was like you can hear when they fucked up, basically, in rhythm and timing. it was still funky. You know what I'm saying? It's like they still kept the beat. It's hard to explain, but I try to do that through the MP.
Have you ever wondered about Jay Dilla's beat making process? Not to try to emulate it, because you can't, and also you shouldn't. But I was able to pick out a few clips from some of his interviews with people like Ross Allen and Giles Peterson, and I narrowed it down to 3 different categories. Sampling, the process behind the making of 3 classic songs among his many production credits, and selecting his drums. But if you don't get anything else from this video, I hope that it inspires you to create.
When I make my music, you know what I'm saying, I want people to feel what I feel. I want them to feel that energy that whatever it was. Yeah, that's all it is. Because I make it straight from the heart. So it's like, to be taken for anything else is crazy to me.
Those words from Dilla pretty much sums it up in the best way possible. So let's hear Dilla talk about sampling. He'll touch on the non-music related reason that was a major factor in the way he sampled, as well as his love for sampling James Brown and sampling or chopping up well-known breakbeats. Check it out.
Because nowadays you're into that synthetic sound.
Right.
Is that because of sample clearance, or is it?
Yeah, you know what? You know what? That's a good note, because samples played a good part in that whole movement. But even though I'm back, like this year, I'm back to chopping up break beats and familiar break beats, substitution and shit. I mean, I'm talking about some crazy, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm at this year. Matter of fact, check for the New De La shit.
Yeah.
I chopped Genius of Love. Oh man, it's one of my favorites. To this day, one of my favorite tracks. But yeah, back to that shit. But the synthetic shit I was fucking with the keyboard, you know, that came from, like I said, the sample clearances. For the Tip album, it was so much hassle with samples. The UFO people, whoever that is, I don't even know who that is. It's a common break. Everybody used that. I just put it in the back of the track. We get a call after the Tip album was out with a lawsuit so big, like $100,000. For that little sound. Come on. I'm like, where's the love at? You know what I'm saying? I said, you know what? Fuck it, I'll play my damn self. You know what I'm saying? You want 85% of my publishing and $100,000 here? Because they have these scouts now that actually listen for samples.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of producers know that, so we try to get away from it. I mean, and if we're gonna use a sample, if I'm gonna use a sample and clear it, I mean, it's gonna be freak to the maximum. So you know, you might not even hear any of it, but you know, I'm gonna use it. I'm not just gonna loop it. I don't like that.
Because in a way, it's like the evolution of the music. Do you know what I mean? And the drum programming as well, I suppose. The fact that, you know, all right, so you get a drum machine or a sampler and you load in a big chunk because you can do it.
Right.
But then after a while, do you know what I mean? It's just like, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do next? And I think the way that all the beats are sort of programmed in and stuff just seems it's just funky. Do you know what I mean? Really syncopated, and it's definitely a good sound, and it just intrigued me. And we've already spoke about the sort of the equipment and the sort of the MPC thing, because I suppose that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Yep. The type of machine you use definitely has a lot to do with your sound.
I mean, how many times has James Brown flipped and still?
I love it.
Vibing? I don't know.
Really?
Come on, man.
Man, I just chopped up It's a Man's World recently. I can't stay away from James Brown. I want to do a beat with Funky Drummer, but it's so hard to do that. Yeah. Whoever does that, if you do it, he's the man. You heard it here first. If you do a beat with Funky Drummer.
I would never do a beat with Funky Drummer. No, never that, man. It's done. I cannot do it better than all those cats.
I know this. I'm like, damn, it's a way.
If you can do it better, then
it's a way. Yeah, it's a way. That's what it's always a way. I do that sometimes. I always come back. Should I fuck with it? I'm like, nah, cut off. You know what I'm saying? But I'll come back to that shit. Like I'm about to chop up that funky worm shit. Fuck that. And what I do naturally is listen to these break beats and chop shit. You know what I'm saying? I come from that hip hop shit. So it's like,
45.
yeah, you know, 45. Oh hell yeah. Well, my last volumes that I'm actually shopping, like this year, has all been from Dusty Finger albums, 45 compilations.
No time for break.
No, I'm looking for common break beats, just shit that's been used. Like I said, substitutes. I just fuck with substitutions.
One original stuff. I would say.
We can gain a brief understanding of Jay Dilla's process by hearing what he had to say about 3 noteworthy songs that he produced. The songs are Runnin', Stakes is High, and Didn't You Know. We'll also get to hear from Robert Glasper, Erykah Badu, and find out why there was a fight during the making of The Far Side's Runnin'.
That beat that you'd had for a while, or was that sort of...
That
how
was
did you work with them? Was it you just took the beats in and they were like, yeah, Wicked will have that?
Yeah, basically. Make it a little easier, but like getting into running, that's when I started listening to like Sergio Mendes. I wasn't
Stan Getz.
Yeah. See, I wasn't into that music, you know what I'm saying? I only heard funk, R&B, jazz, but not really.
So the whole sort of digging thing and sort of going off on little tangents and getting into different areas sort of has affected
yeah, definitely got me open. Yeah, I'm open to like a lot of things now. Check it out, y'all. Got a little story for you. It's Jay Dilla checking in. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all about running. Far Side, and I've seen a fight out of that song from members of the group because the 950 filter sounds better than the ASR 10. Yeah, that was the argument and that was the fight. Yeah, I mean a fight. Yeah, that was just one incident. But not to mention for others. I mean, I done seen this cat get his arm broke and cats with leopard skin boxers on, their pants coming down and the shit. Yo, man, I'm telling you, the making of this Far Side Lab Caviar album was hilarious. It was just all the way around. It got me prepared for what was ahead in this rap game, basically. Is Far Side still together? You know? That came from also one of those old tapes that I think the Far Side got running from that same tape. Yeah, so it was like that came from one of the old batches. Busta used some beats off of that for his first album. It's like the Stakes is High joint was, I think I heard maybe Tip or Ali did a track where it was 3-bar loop. Which was weird to me because it was like people weren't doing that. So it was like when I found this, came across this Ahmad Jamal thing.
With Ahmad Jamal, you don't have to do a lot of chopping because his music was already crazy. I could pray to this, So that's one of the things I got from Dilla. He made people want to actually play like his beats. And that's the thing, that's the beauty of music. You can learn so many different things from everywhere. It's full circle. That's the vibe.
I heard the potential in the record. I knew I wanted to mess with it, but I just didn't know how because the timing in the Ahmad Jamal thing was, I think it was like 5/8. It was like some weird rhythm. So it was like, but I knew it could be done. But just making that beat. It was just going back to me, and I was real heavy into the jazz at that time. Jazz and salsa. Anything like Sergio Mendes or Ahmad Jamal. Yeah, I'd take any one of the two all day. So it was like, that's all I had in my collection was like a lot of jazz records. And, you know, that's where that came from. But Busta actually wanted that Stakes is High beat. It's like a lot of people wanted that track, but De La was the first person. They were the first people to get the business behind. Like what I was looking for was something more on the on and on thing. Like, you know, more where she came from, but with the JD feel, you know, if you will. So it was like what she wanted to do. Like I said, once again, you know, like some artists have their vision. So it's like what she wanted to do something totally like nothing like she's done before.
It's a result of inviting millions and billions of memory atoms, atomic memory into the music.
Like for me, myself, I always like to make the artist, you know, make sure that they're satisfied with what I give them. You know, me wanting to be an artist myself, you know, I know what I would want to look for in a producer, you know, somebody that basically can give me what I need or what I'm looking for that can finish this picture. So, like I said, the Didn't You Know track, that was the closest to, you know, to me, you know, that was the closest that she picked actually, you know, that would relate to her last music. And like you said, people didn't know that I did it because it wasn't, you know, they didn't have any high energy or didn't have a broken break beats. It was just, you know, kind of like a raw loop. But, you know, if people heard the Tamika Blue record where we got the record from, you know, and then listen to Erykah Badu, they'd be like, oh, okay, now I get it, you know, now we get it, okay, damn.
We went in the basement, and his basement was about this size, and every wall, from floor to ceiling, records categorized. He was a scientist. Like, if you open his refrigerator, all the Coke cans were turned the same way. It looked like a graveyard. It was perfect. You know, everything was perfect. He was an engineer in school. So there's a lot of mathematical things going around in his mind at all times, but he didn't talk a lot. But he let me pick out some records, and there are so many records I had never heard before in my life. One was a Tarika Blue record. Picked the record, he let me pick the spot in the record and taught me how to sample the portion of the song. You know, very humble. You know, it wasn't this is my lab. It was, hey, if you like this, you can probably do it.
Although Dilla is known for programming drums on his MPC 3000, he still had a deep love for drummers. Drummers like Tony Allen, Bernard Purdie, and also Questlove from The Roots. Dilla never wanted the drums on his beats to be too perfect or robotic. He wanted them to sound human, or even superhuman. So keep watching as he shares his thoughts on this topic, and we'll also get to hear Questlove praise Dilla for his understanding of dynamics when programming drums.
The fact that the drums just sound heavy, you were saying that was something that you got from listening to The Roots.
Yeah, well, listening to The Roots. See, I used to sample drums or try to tweak my drums how he would play them, how Amir would play them and tweak them, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I want him to sound. So I know it's hard to get. I know, you know, it's hard to do, man. It's hard to mix them joints like and try to sound them like, you know, get them to sound like they came out in the 70s or something. I just know I like the feel of like offbeat drums and the bass line being behind the beat, you know, incredibly behind it. You know what I'm saying? Almost sick. So I like it. And then besides that, listening to The Roots, that, you know, Amir with his drums, it was kind of like seeing, you know what I'm saying, like what I heard in my head, he could play. So I think he's ridiculous because like I know where he's at when he's mixing them drums and he's playing that shit. It sounded like it's something from back in the day, you know what I'm saying? It sounded like he was alive back then, you know. And so that shit is like inspiring to me, you know.
When we were working on the Things Fall Apart record and the Comment record, like I was just recording for hours just to see what his techniques were. And, you know, the fact that he believes in dynamics. You know, the average producer cat, he'll take a record. You know, if it's a drum break, He'll take the first snare he hears, the first kick he hears, the first hi-hat he hears, and that's it. Chop it up and does a beat. If it's a drum break for like 32 bars, Jay will actually take like 9 snares, 9 kicks, 9 hi-hats, because each of them have a different dynamic. But he's so quick with it. Like, I've just never seen someone like so in tune to how, you know, to what he's doing.
Like, I get that from listening to old drummers, Bernard Purdy.
You must then learn how to groove.
You know, Idris Muhammad. I mean, like, drummers like that, like, had funk soul. It was like you can hear when they fucked up, basically, in rhythm and timing, it was still funky. You know what I'm saying? It's like they still kept the beat. It's hard to explain, but I try to do that through the MP. I might have thought about Staple Singer's Piece of the Action, you know.
One discovery makes a dream come true. Baby, say what you will.
Songs like that where you hear them and it's like the claps all through the song and loud and offbeat, you know, things like that. That's what moves me, and that's what gets me to take it to the next level. You know, don't program the claps, put them live on the track. You know, just things like that, man. You know, just to give it another feel. Yeah.
At the same time, you really feel the funkiness in the stops and the silence, the atmosphere. That's funky.
Yeah, thanks. You know. And once again, that inspiration comes from Tribe, De La. You know, it's like to hear when I heard the first De La album, it was like the interludes and the way it was put together was so different. You know, it was like it's nothing I heard before, nothing I've ever heard before. Like even to the Tribe, you know, the stuff they were doing, it was like nothing I heard before.
If producers can buy sample packs, then why can't rappers buy beat packs? Well, now you can, because if you're an MC or a rapper who's really got bars like that, you need to get the Boom Bap beat pack. I know some of y'all listen to these beats that are in the background of my videos, and y'all be like, that joint is fire. Like, what beat is that? Well, those are some of the beats that are on this pack. It's got 10 royalty-free beats that you can use for songs, YouTube videos, or whatever you want. You could get unlimited streams, unlimited radio plays. It doesn't matter. All you gotta do is pay once, and they're yours to keep. So if you realize how great of a deal this is, and you want in, click the link in the description or the pinned comment below.
I'm gonna take y'all to the east side, Detroit, real quick. I'm gonna take y'all there. Niggas in the basement shit, fuck with this record. Who hit him? Oh, my man here. My man here. The shit stood up on me, I don't know. Hey, who voted out there? Y'all vote and shit? What's that? Y'all lying. Yeah, they lying. Shit. But it's cool though, y'all represent. I like that. What's that, Loose? What we doing? Oh, that's that shit. Jay Dilla, rock with us, y'all. Rock with us, and you know we're singing with us, though. It's the 788 DDT, niggas, just like Jay Dilla. Actually, but if we do, then I'ma see you at, come on.
Players. That whole album is like my favorite Dilla production in one body of work. Like I got dope Dilla production through different albums. I've always had them on every album. But that one album to this day has yet to be outdone by any producer.
DJ Spinner has some nice things to say about Players too. There's too many dope slum beats that I love, but this was the first one to make my head spin on first listen. Dilla actually told me what this sample was. When I realized the singers were really saying Claire instead of players, I knew then that we had a special alien producer on this planet. This is more than just a beat. It's a composition meticulously constructed to give you a floating on air-like illusion. And how about them drums? Rapper's Delight? Insane. It's moments like these that made you go back to the lab and rethink your entire career. Q-Tip was determined to not let himself get put in a box, and Dilla was there to be his right-hand man, supplying him with that out-the-box music. But Let's Ride is one of those joints that really fit that old tribe vibe, in my opinion. This song made OKPlayer.com's 17 best Jay Dilla beats list, and this excerpt from their explanation sums things up pretty nicely. Organized around a sample of Giant Steps, a famously hard song to tame, Dilla and Tip chopped up Joe Pass's solo guitar take on the John Coltrane classic so that it aligns with a shuffling breakbeat. The result is an airy and almost whimsical production, the opposite of Coltrane's original recording. Let's Ride is definitely a joint to ride out to.
With Ahmad Jamal, you don't have to do a lot of chopping because his music was already crazy. I could pray to this, you know? So that's one of the things I got from Dilla. He made people want to actually play like his beats. And that's the thing, you know, that's the beauty of music. You can learn so many different things from everywhere. It's full circle. You know, that's the vibe.
I heard the potential in the record. I knew I wanted to mess with it, but I just didn't know how because the timing in the Ahmad Jamal thing was, I think it was like 5/8. It was like some weird, you know, weird rhythm. So it was like, but I knew it could be done. But yeah, just making that beat, you know, it was just going back to me, and I was real heavy into the jazz at that time. You know, jazz and salsa. You know, anything like Sergio Mendes or Ahmad Jamal. I'd take any one of the two all day. So it was like that's all I had in my collection was like a lot of jazz records, and you know, that's where that came from. But Busta actually wanted that Stakes is High beat. It's like a lot of people wanted that track, but De La was the first person. They were the first people to get the business behind.
But did y'all know that Paz had to pretend like he didn't like the beat, or Q-Tip might have used it for a Tribe track? The story goes that Paz was at Q-Tip's house one day, and Q-Tip played him a bunch of Dilla beats. So one day, I'm at Q-Tip's crib, and he was like, yo, I just got a bunch of shit from Dilla. You want to hear? So he starts playing me every track. And every track that comes on is better than the last. But he will always be like, yo, what do you think of it? And I'm like, yeah, that's dope. He's like, word? Yeah. I think this is something me and Fife could get on. The next track would come on. Yo, what do you think of this one? And he's looking at me, and I'm like, dog, that's crazy. But then he heard the beat that they were looking for. They already knew that they were going to have a song called Stakes is High, but they hadn't found the right beat yet. When Stakes is High came on, when them horns came, I'm telling you, 3 seconds in, I said, I cannot tell Q-Tip this shit is dope. I started picking at it. He went to the next track, started playing it. I said, that's dope. Can I use your bathroom real quick? I go in the bathroom, pull out my mobile phone, call Dave, and was like, yo, it's this fucking track Q-Tip just played for me from JD. Its Stakes is High. This is what we need. So the moral of this story is, sometimes to get what you want, you might have to lie a little bit.
Was that a beat that you'd had for a while, or was that a sort of? How did you work with them? Was it you just took the beats in and they were like, yeah, wicked, we'll have that?
Yeah, basically. Make it a little easier, but like getting into running, that's when I started listening to like Sergio Mendes. Like I wasn't
Stan Getzler.
Yeah. See, I wasn't into that music, you know what I'm saying? I only heard funk, R&B, jazz, but not really.
So the whole sort of digging thing and sort of going off on little tangents and getting into different areas, it sort of has affected.
Yeah, definitely got me open. Yeah, I'm open to like a lot of things now.
Check it out, y'all. Got a little story for you. It's Jay Dilla checking in. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all about running. Far Side, and I've seen a fight out of that song from members of the group because the 950 filter sounds better than the ASR 10. Yeah, that was the argument, and that was the fight. Yeah, I mean a fight. Yeah, that was just one incident. Not to mention the others. I mean, I done seen this cat get his arm broke, and cats with leopard skin boxers on, their pants coming down, and that shit. Yo, man, I'm telling you, the making of this Far Side Loud Cowboy album was hilarious. It was just all the way around. It got me prepared for what was ahead in this rap game, basically. Is Far Side still together? You know?
Come on now. How awesome was it to see Miles Bonham, the then 5-year-old kid who remade Far Side's running instrumental from top to bottom, from the drums to the hook to the bass line? Take a look.
It has too much oil and it needs some mints. What's called ooh? How do you spell ooh? Ooh. First I'm gonna eat you. It's here in hot hat because how about that? Way better. Woo! Yep, I think I did it. Let's come together. Take it right away.
This is one of my favorite Dilla beats of all time. If this list was in ranking order, it would be near the top. I'm sure part of that has to do with how much I love the original anyway, and what Keith did lyrically on the song. As you may know, for the OG version, Eric Sermon sampled Frankie Beverly and Maze's Before I Let Go, which in and of itself is a song that is absolutely classic that never gets old, but somehow Eric made it sound almost dark, but still funky. With that being said, per usual for Dilla, he goes in a completely different direction. TheRinger.com had this to say when comparing Sermon's version to the Slum Village Street mix. Two different takes on the funk. Eric Sermon's original production, a slow and sultry flip of Frankie Beverly and Maze's Before I Let Go that sounds as though it's tailor-made to blast out the windows of a Cadillac Seville, and Dilla's reworking, which is better suited to soundtrack a ride in a space shuttle. And Complex.com agrees with them. Dilla is on a short list with the likes of Pete Rock and Large Professor for being one of the few producers whose remixes would consistently outshine the originals. Stand down, Eric Sermon. Sure, every producer under the sun has sampled Bob James's Nautilus, but Dilla was able to freak and flip a part that, at the time, had remained untouched. Advantage JD. The other great aspect to mention about this song is the drums. The kicks were EQ'd so they were rounded out where they thump, but not so much that they take over the whole track. The snares are really crisp and they smack, but they still sit in just the right spot in the mix. As far as the drum programming goes, he stays in the pocket for the most part, only switching it up in specific sections where he would do like drum roll routines, almost like something a live drummer would do. I love that he would treat his remixes like original songs he produced and throw in all the bells and whistles like that. The Hold Tight remix is a seldom mentioned masterpiece in Dilla's extensive discography. The BT Express drums are a nice touch, These are actually the same drums that DJ Quick used for Truth Hurts is Addictive. I knew they sounded familiar, and I finally recalled that's where I heard them from. But Dilla really put some heavy reverb on the snares. Now the main song that he used, that the whole tight vocal comes from, he just took out all the parts that would make it sound lush, soulful, and melodic instead of disco like the original song does. I have no idea how he did that, because if you listen to it, you can kind of hear what he took from it, but he made a lot of changes to it. He reworked the bass into a different pattern if he used the bass from the sample at all. And halfway through Q-Tip's verse, that wah-wah sound comes in like High Tech used on The Blast. And then he pulled in that guitar that weaves in and out from another record. It's just a beautiful track to ride out to, as I've done exactly that many times. Alright, once again from Beats, Rhymes, and Life. For a song that people love to hate, this song bangs in the ride. Playing this in my Honda Accord made me realize that those snares on this song smack like crazy. But Tammy Lucas is singing on the hook. That was like the nail in the coffin. Nothing against her, it's just the whole change in sound. People thought Tribe had went commercial on us. Complex.com addresses this sentiment head on. While many accuse JD, the Ummah are rarely mentioned in these discussions, of tampering with and ruining the traditional Tribe sound, Jay was only taking Q-Tip and Ali Shaheed's beats and making them sound bigger, better, and most importantly, contemporary. The main sample Dilla used for this is so freaking small that it's like someone who was trying to do like an R&B pop vibe hip hop joint wouldn't have made a beat like that. And then adding in that vocal sample with people applauding in the background, a popular party/club record producer back in 1996 wouldn't have done that either. Dynamite pairs the greatest producer of all time with the hip-hop live band The Roots, which in my opinion includes one of the greatest MCs of all time, Black Thought. The YouTube channel Digging the Greats did an amazing video on Dynamite. You should definitely check that out when you get a chance. But the original sample of this song is just another case of Jay Dilla having the patience to listen to a whole record. Maybe it was strategy. Maybe it was him just enjoying lots of different types of music. Maybe it was a little bit of both. But there is the chance that you could miss a moment like this if you're just skipping through the record and dropping the needle in random spots. That Indiana sample starting at the 158 mark and ending around 205 was the absolute best part he could have taken from that record.
The light remix, the bass line is crazy. And then he took the little guitar part, it'll be shit that just comes in on the record like, and it'll be like, oh, let me get that, play it out over the bass line. Ridiculous, man.
A lot of people have the original, The Light, on their list, and don't get me wrong, I love that joint, but the remix is absolutely insane.
We ended up having Erica sing on the Light remix because she had been, Erykah Badu, she had been in the video, and we just was real close, so that love was coming through and she sang on it. And Dilla was he was excited to do a remix for her. He just would take the remixes somewhere else.
The original song is really up-tempo, but Dilla was never afraid to slow down a sample.
This shit looks so corny. This shit just looks like nothing. And motherfuckers who know who Lalo Schifrin is, Lalo Schifrin got some shit. But this looks like the one that you don't want. You know what I'm saying? The name of the song is Memory of Love. This is where the Light remix came from. Erykah Badu and Common off of the Bamboozle soundtrack. And yo, filter. It's filter shit. It's crazy. Like I heard this, Magnetic put me up on this, my boy Matt. It's crazy because it ain't really much to it. He just picked all the right parts of this joint and just, once again, just put them all together.
And like House Shoe said in the video, he filtered it to get the bass line. He had to because there was too much going on in that song. There's no spot where it's open. And that other guitar that's tucked away in the original song, he slowed that down, and you hear that throughout the beat. The hand clap snares, the percussion that sounds like he used shakers, it's ill. And all you had to do was get Common to spit the same verses and have Erica sing the hook, and you got a classic.
I had that shit on the tape that Jay gave me in like 96. And the Light remix was like, came out in 2000. So that beat was like fucking 5 years old. 5-year-old ass beat, and that shit sounded 15 years ahead of shit that anybody else was doing. You know what I'm saying? Jay always stayed about 10, 15 years ahead of Cat.
Love is my favorite of the 2 joints that Dilla produced on Common's classic album B. This time, he chopped up some Marvin Gaye. You can't go wrong with the legend like that. And Common is a monster lyrically, so if you give him a beat that's really dope, it's game over. To be honest with you, if you really look at it, Common probably had the best chemistry with Dilla of any producer he ever worked with outside of No ID. And then, you know you got a banger on your hands when another elite MC, Jay Electronica, takes it and rhymes over it for Renaissance Man.
Everybody told me to be patient, but who was sleeping from couch to couch and basement to basement? But J-Man, Satan trying to block my shine like Ray-Bans. Haters never want to see you bubble, they rather to see you struggle. That's life, my nigga. A lot of fakers in the place were invited to taste and told me right to my face, yeah, that's tight, my nigga. You reppin' that dirty South dog? Alright, my nigga. But they wouldn't lift a finger to light the incense or let the smoke linger. I ain't a hot boy, but the flow's jalapeno. I'm never yapping about how the calico will in ya. Mac know your crack soldier creeping on the come up. My grandmother won't leave the fucking projects. I gotta raise the slum up. These nerds at record labels played me dumb and dumber. So I showed the industry my ass cracked like a plumber. Now ass cap banging on my door like a drummer. The fall's about to put a period.
This video is sponsored by Monev360 of Back to the Boom Bap's drum kit called Back to the Breakbeats. If you're a boom bap producer, you'll definitely want to get this drum kit. It has kicks like this, snares like this, hi-hats like this, and drum loops or breakbeats like this. So you can use the drum hits, you can use the drum loops, you can chop up the loops, you can use them as is, you can do whatever you want to do. As a matter of fact, the beat that you listen to right now was made with this drum kit. It doesn't matter what DAW you use or what hardware you use, you can use this drum kit. So if you want to make dope boom bap beats, then you gotta get Back to the Breakbeats. It will be linked in the description or in the pinned comment below.
Like what I was looking for was something more on the on and on thing, like, you know, more where she came from, but with the JD feel, you know, if you will. So it was like what she wanted to do. Like I said, once again, you know, like some artists have their vision. So it's like what she wanted to do something totally like nothing like she's done before.
It's a result of inviting millions and billions of memory atoms, atomic memory into the music.
Like for me, myself, I always like to make the artist, you know, make sure that they're satisfied with what I give them. You know, me wanting to be an artist myself, you know, I know what I would want to look for in a producer, you know, somebody that basically can give me what I need or what I'm looking for that can finish this picture. So, like I said, the Didn't You Know track, that was the closest to, you know, to me, you know, that was the closest that she picked actually. You know, that would relate to her last music. And like you said, people didn't know that I did it because it wasn't, you know, they didn't have any high energy or didn't have a broken break beats. It was just, you know, kind of like a raw loop. But, you know, if people heard the Tamika Blue record where we got the record from, you know, and then listen to Erykah Badu, they'd be like, oh, okay, now I get it. You know, now we get it. Okay, damn.
We went in the basement, and his basement was about this size, and every wall, from floor to ceiling, was records categorized. He was a scientist. Like, if you open his refrigerator, all the Coke cans were turned the same way. It looked like a graveyard. It was perfect. You know, everything was perfect. He was an engineer in school, so there's a lot of mathematical things going around in his mind at all times, but he didn't talk a lot. but he let me pick out some records, and there are so many records I had never heard before in my life. One was a Tarika Blue record, and I was like, oh wow, this is beautiful, and it became Didn't You Know? And not only did he let me pick the record, he let me pick the spot in the record and taught me how to sample the portion of the song. You know, very humble. It wasn't, this is my lab. It was, hey, well, if you like this, you can probably do it.
Complex.com did the 50 best Dilla songs, and this was on the list. Here's what they had to say about Enjoy the Ride. One of JD's best traits was understanding the sound that worked for an artist and then personifying it. Dilla knew Busta enjoyed rhyming over beats that sounded like Saturday morning cartoons, and Enjoy the Ride was his grown and sexy version of that. The song sparkled like a diamond, and whatever Dilla Dog sampled and rearranged remains a secret he took to the grave. Well, maybe for some of the songs among his many production credits, but not this particular one. Check this out.
Black Note. We just sparkle now. Yeah, we just sparkle now. Yeah.
That's one of those chops where it's not really like a loop, and it's kind of like it's a little unorthodox when you hear it. So the way he took that sample and just made that sequence out of it and made that groove out of it, the placement he put it in is just dope, man. Of course, the drums on that beat is like some of the best Dilla drums too, man. That whole joint is just dope. The bass line, it's like happy, but it's kind of dark at the same time. That's exactly, you could tell that's what Busta was thinking too when he heard it, for him to like say that shit.
We're gonna shine and we are gonna sparkle now. Yeah, we're gonna.
I don't really think cats realize just not how good he was as a beat maker and a producer, but his engineering talents, man. For him to be able to like engineer certain sounds a certain way and EQ, like his equalizing, was like nobody could EQ sounds like Dilla's. Like that side of his brain is insane to me. You know what I'm saying? The way he can just take, his engineering skills, taking a record and like sonically making it feel and sound like how you want it to sound. And I'm still on that journey and on that path myself. Just that how to make stuff sound and paint that picture that you're seeing and that you're hearing in your head. So yeah, he was the best at that.
And even though Donuts is an instrumental album, I always felt like this beat had a vibe to it where an MC should rhyme on it. So I was happy when DJ Soul came out with Assorted Donuts and mashed it up with Jay-Z's Song Cry. Since we never got to hear Jay officially rap over a Dilla beat, this was the next best thing.
Good dude, I know you love me like cook food, even though a nigga gotta move like a crook move. We was together on the block since free lunch. We should have been together having 4 seasons brunch. We used to use umbrellas to face the bad weather, so now we travel first class to change the forecast. Never in bunches, just me and you. I loved your point of view cause you held no punches.
Alright, so Lewis Hayes Group, variety is the spice. Dance with me. Yeah. This is another one, just bits and pieces. It's like a Fender Rhodes intro on this joint. that swings into like some up-tempo shit. And he chopped this shit up so ridiculous.
Sometimes Remix was one of the records where he had to get the sample from the beginning of the song, because after that it went in a completely different direction. It's so hard to hear what he used. I think I finally did hear it after I played it a bunch of times, but that's how micro the chops were that he used, and he just kind of played it into a new pattern. This is the type of joint that I always liked and I played in the car all the time, but hearing the OG sample just makes me appreciate it even more. Revisionist history be damned, a lot of critics and hip-hop fans did not like Beats, Rhymes, and Life or the album this song comes from, The Love Movement. I don't recall myself being as disappointed in the music as they were. I was 17 when this song came out, and it was just a dope song to me. It sounded like a Tribe Called Quest. And I've been knowing that it used Technova for a long time and how they came up with that hook by creating new words for the singing from the song. But what I didn't know until I recently saw someone post about it on IG is the drums are from Funkin' for Jamaica. They're not open drums. They come from the beginning of the song where the people are talking. That's why you can still hear it on Tribe's song. That is brilliant. I always thought he got those vocals from a separate record.
Give It To Me, Baby. Rick James. Jay was very good at taking something that everybody knew and making it sound like something that nobody knew what the fuck it was. So, everybody knows the bass line intro to Give It To Me, Baby. And he bodied this shit, slowed it down, chopped it up, and it became Doing It for Common off of Like Water for Chocolate. This shit is out of control. Come on, man.
Keep on.
Jay, I mean, what makes Jay the best is that he's just the fucking best. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can translate records into beats like Dilla, period. You know what I'm saying? You can check some of the records he used the same as other people who produced, but when you compare the end product, like, come on, it's just fucking astronaut shit, you know? Milky Way, galaxy, and beyond. Out of control. Ain't nobody fucking with Dilla.
Back in the day when I first read Questlove talking about where they had Jay Dilla to do a rhythm roulette type deal and have Jay pick a random record to sample, in this case it was Rick James' Give It To Me, Baby, and then it became Doing It, I was literally blown away. When the Ringer.com talked about the song, they were so bold as to say Dilla showed up on an album featuring a circa 2000 DJ Premier track and laid down the best sample chop on the project. Now they may have been bold, but they weren't wrong. Here's why. With The Sixth Sense, you knew that had to be an obscure sample. It was chopped masterfully, but you knew it was something that you had to dig for and not a hit song by the Four Tops or the Temptations. But who would have guessed that the opening bass line to Give It To Me, Baby could get flipped like that?
You know, don't get mad about it, just accept it, you know what I'm saying? Strive for your greatness, but strive for your own greatness. Don't try to be like Dilla, because you ain't gonna fucking do it. You're gonna fail miserably. So just do you, man. Alright?
Drifting, 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 drifting.
When I first compiled a list like this, it was when I made a mixtape on cassette of my favorite songs produced by Jay Dilla. I think that was in 2005. On the tape label, I think I spelled Jay Dilla as J-A-Y Dilla. I'm pretty sure that this song was on that tape. It's like, you already know what's about to happen when it opens with that.
Drifting, 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 drifting. The first record we're going to talk about today is a record by a band called The Circle. This record I finally managed to get hold of and bought for the tune called The Visit, She Was Here.
She was here with me today, walking softly.
The story behind hearing that record is quite interesting because someone once made me a folk mixtape, like the sort of soulful folk stuff that I like. When I put the two and two together and suddenly realised, of course, that not only was it a good song in its own right, if you like that kind of music and you collect that sort of music, but it was flipped perfectly. The main thing that you're going to hear on the Tribe record is that drifting, 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 drifting. You know, the thing about Dilla, I'm sure everyone would agree with me, it's not about what record he chooses, it's always about which bits of the record he takes. And that goes for anything as arguably obvious as like Donuts, all the way through to the really obscure stuff that you don't even have a clue about. Dilla was like discerning in terms of what little bits of the track you take.
Albumism.com called the vocals from the Circles The Visit haunting, and that's a perfect description. Dilla definitely filtered the bass line for Q-Tip's verses and just opens everything back up for the hook, the same way he did on songs like Stakes Is High and Fall in Love. Oh yeah, and I read somewhere that House Shoes said that Dilla made this beat in like 12 minutes. How crazy is that? Thelonious appears on Common's Like Water for Chocolate and Slum Village's Fantastic Volume 2, and it shows up on multiple top Jay Dilla beats lists that I found online. Another fan of this beat is DJ Spinner. Listen as he talks about how this song blew his mind.
One day, in my lab, digging through records, listening to records, trying to find the next thing to rock with, we come across this underrated George Duke album. And the part came up on the song, and I said, did a double tap, so wait a minute, let's go back to that. From the back, play it again. No, this, play it again. Nah, this can't be, this can't be happening again. I was blown completely, my wig was like blown straight off from my shoulders. Like I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, man, it was just another one of them situations where you had to pause for a minute and kind of just sit down and just take a breath and be like, this dude is incredible.
On that particular day that Spinner recounts in the video, he discovered what Dilla sampled for Thelonious. But what I don't know is how Jay Dilla even heard that in the first place. His ear was crazy. He took that one little part and made it the main part of the whole beat. I love what OKPlayer.com had to say about it in their piece called The 17 Best Jay Dilla Beats of All Time. The 2-chord loop, sourced from a George Duke record, just chills in the cut, but it never resolves. It could loop for hours, and the song's sense of tension and anticipation would never dissipate. The Ethan Hine blog pretty much does a breakdown of the song, and to give you the Cliff Notes version, the entire beat is off kilter. The kick, bass, and the piano loop all hit an eighth note earlier than the downbeat. Typically, songs have a point where the tension in the music gets resolved, but this doesn't happen on Thelonious. If the average song is linear in its progression, this song could best be compared to if a song could rotate in a circular motion. But when I used to play this song all the time on my cassette tape of Like Water for Chocolate, yes, cassette tape, this was before YouTube, Spotify didn't exist, I didn't notice that the snares were early or late and the bass line not landing perfectly on the grid or whatever. It was just a dope song. And that's what was so great about Dilla. You could love his music whether you're a musician with a keen ear for key, pitch, and rhythmic timing, or even if you're like me and you just love music and know what you like to hear. And if we want to talk about the vocals, Dilla's all over this song. He sings on it, he does the hook, and he raps last and had the best verse on the whole damn song. Who does that?
Oh, well, first of all, that rhyme, the King Kong shook it and all of that, like, to me, that's probably the best verse that I ever heard him spit. Swaggerific, man, unbelievable. He was bouncing. He was like a bouncing ball all over that joint. He had the hottest verse. he had the hottest verse, period. Dilla was the king of taking just the most unthought of pieces of a composition and flipping it. The king of that. And this George Duke joint is another one of those situations.
Listening to and loving Lyrics to Go all these years has really made me have a special place in my heart for a beat that samples many Rippertons, Inside My Love. This is one of 3 times that Jay Dilla sampled it, and I think it may be my favorite of the 3. And not only did he sample Minnie Riperton, but he also sampled Trina Broussard's cover of the song. That's where the singing comes from that you hear on the hook. He freaked a sample similar to how Tip did on Lyrics to Go, but it's that Dilla drum programming that really makes this one hit different. It's how the snare smacks and where it lands on the grid, the bounce of the hi-hats, how the bass warbles and the notes fall in places where it doesn't seem like they should be. You wouldn't think that it would work that way, but it does. So all Slim gotta do is flow, and they've always been great at that. Little Brother is like Jay Dilla's masterclass on chopping and rearranging samples. But I go into a lot more detail on the song Little Brother on my video breaking down Jay Dilla's micro chopping technique. So if you want to know some key facts about the making of this song, then watch that video next. Jay Dilla had a lot of dope sampling techniques that he would use in his beats. One technique that he used is, and just to give it a simple name, I'll call it micro chopping. Dilla had a way of chopping where you knew that he was working with chops, but he made it sound as fluid as if it was a loop. If you're not too familiar with the concept of chopping in general, then the best way to explain it is to break down 2 of Dilla's productions where he utilized this technique. The songs are Don't Cry from his posthumous album Donuts and Black Star's song Little Brother. Questlove was able to witness Jay Dilla creating the beat for Little Brother, and I'll talk about that a little later. But right now, let's talk about Don't Cry. Don't Cry is one of my favorite tracks on Donuts, so I was happy when the channel called Vox, or Vokes, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, did a dedicated video on Jay Dilla's sampling techniques and mentioned this song.
There are so many songs that show Jay Dilla's ability to flip a sample, but there's one that gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
I can't stand to see you cry now, baby, now.
A lot of people think sampling is easy because they're like, oh, they're just listening to the melody on top, but they're not thinking about what the instruments below that lead melody are doing and how they're playing a role in the beat.
The first 40 seconds of Don't Cry is just a few long loops of the Escorts' I Can't Stand to See You Cry. He barely did anything with them. He's basically saying, this is all I have to work with. At 40 seconds though, he says, now look what I can do with this MPC. Instead of chopping to the melody, he chopped up a handful of kicks and snares throughout the entire song, regardless of the melody on top of it. And like little puzzle pieces, he resequenced those kicks and snares to create this entirely new, dream-like song.
Don't Cry also blew Knife Wonder's mind. Listen as he explains why this track is so special to him.
So Dilla mastered the art of taking a sample without stretching it, chopping it up, and playing it fast. Because if you hear in the song, there's kicks and snares in the song. So he, instead of doing like we did, or used to doing, chopping the sound, he chopped the kick and the snare, and played the kick and the snare no matter what came with it, right?
Did you notice how all Knife Wonder's fellow producers and Soul Council were doing the same hand gestures in rhythm and in unison as the track was playing? That's a producer thing. It's weird, but that's just what we do. If it's not the head nod, then we got them hands going. But anyway, now let's talk about Little Brother. No, not that Little Brother, although I love them to life too. I'm talking about the song Little Brother by Black Star. It was on the Hurricane soundtrack. You gotta hear Questlove tell the story because he literally watched Dilla do the impossible.
What he managed to do was find every microscopic period of the song that had no talking on it or singing.
We got a long, long way to go. That's right.
It's the original.
A long, long, long way to go.
So suddenly he takes on his MPC 3000 on 12 pads. He somehow, and this is before Pro Tools. Now in Pro Tools you can cut and paste and stuff and manipulate how you want it to sound. This is before. I mean, this is done in like '99. He just by hand. I watched him.
Yeah, knowing this song, the revolution will not be televised or broadcast live on the net. My man Mo said it's personal.
That beat is not sampled from a loop. Those are individual chops that Jay Dilla spliced together and created a new pattern with. There's no super deep bass line and additional instrumentation from Jay himself or James Poyser because Dilla was just doing this for fun. The RappersIKnow.com website posted a blog post written by Questlove called Questlove vs. JD, the Little Brother beat story. In this post, Quest includes a conversation he had with Dilla right after he made the beat to Little Brother. Yo, Peter's gonna be fucked up when he hears this shit. Before I go on, let me just give you a little backstory on this. Pete Rock used this sample on Pete Rock and CL Smooth's 1994 album, The Main Ingredient. It was an interlude that came on after the album opener called In the House. The original sample is called Ain't Got Time by Roy Ayers Ubiquity. It's a rather ironic song because Dilla had plenty of time. He took the time to listen to the song over and over again to pick out what parts he was going to sample. He took the time to play around with it in his MP until he got it sounding exactly how he wanted it. On second thought, it's not so ironic because the song says, ain't got time to be tired. Dilla was determined to work on this beat until he got it right. It takes tireless dedication to your craft to lead to greatness. But anyway, let's get back to their combo. Yo, Peter's gonna be fucked up when he hears this shit. No. Nah, man, you can't let him hear this, man. I can't afford that. Afford what? This shit is a miracle. Nah, man, like, I don't want no tension. That's my idol. I don't want to give off the impression that I'm trying to outshine him. But dog, I'm saying, if you shine then, nah, man. So all this shit I got was samples he's used? Yeah, man, don't let that shit get out, man. I just do it for practice. Wait, so this beat is never going to see the light of day? Ever? You just made it and lost sweat over it for sport? Yeah, man, I just practiced. Thank God Kweli had a cassette which had this beat on it for like 15 seconds. They looped it from the cassette. And it was too late. So he shrugged it off. But man, that humility.
I mean, if you really break down how it's the equivalent, the shortest version is it's the equivalent of someone solving a 10,000 piece puzzle in record time. Like, this sounds normal to you, and that's the thing. Like, he made it sound fluid. He made it sound like it was an actual loop. Like, you can't even hear the micro chops in it.
Since you're still watching right now, then why don't you keep watching? I've released the first 6 episodes of my 10 Things You Didn't Know About Classic Hip Hop Album series, so before you bounce and check out Netflix, watch the first video in that series about Nas's Illmatic. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace.